what the make and model of the vehicle was that was tied to Mr. Robinson?
The Dodge Challenger.
Anything else beyond that you remember?
It was silver in color, and I believe there were two registered owners of the vehicle.
Okay, and who are the registered owners?
Mr. Robinson and then his mother.
Do you recall whether or not a date of birth was included in that driver's license information that you got initially?
Yeah, I believe the actual driver's license record was shared, so it would have included a date of birth.
All right. With Tyler Robinson's personal information, were you able to expand your search at all?
Yes, once we knew a vehicle that we were looking for and we had an actual image of the individual, then we were able to use that video footage to try and track that specific individual.
Okay, and I'm sorry, let me clarify. So when I said expand your search, I'm referencing the UVU surveillance video.
Yes, we were able to.
What's up, family? So we got to talk about this Tyler Robinson preliminary hearing because new testimony came out in court, and there has been a lot of arguing online about what this case really shows and what it does not show. And the two biggest claims people keep going back and forth over are simple. Number one, was Tyler Robinson even on campus that day? And number two, does the autopsy actually say about how Charlie Kirk died? And those two questions have been driving a lot of the online conversation. And depending on what side of the internet you're on, people are either acting like the whole case is already proven or like the whole case is falling apart. But from my perspective, this is exactly why we have to slow down and understand what kind of hearing this actually was. This was not a trial. This was a preliminary hearing. That difference matters a lot because a preliminary hearing is not where a judge or jury decides guilt or innocence. This is not the final verdict. This is not where the prosecution has to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. This is where the court looks at the evidence presented so far and decides whether there's enough probable cause for the case to keep moving forward. So when people take one piece of testimony, one objection, one ruling from the judge, or one headline and try to turn it into the whole case, that is where the confusion starts. So let me explain this in plain English because I know a lot of people do not sit around reading court rules all day. A preliminary hearing is basically the court saying, before we move this case any further, is there enough evidence to believe this person could have committed the crime? That is a much lower standard than a trial. At trial, the state has to prove guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a much heavier burden. So today we're going to walk through what the testimony actually showed, what investigators said under oath and what the autopsy findings say, what the defense pushed back on and what the judge blocked, and what all of that really means without guessing, without reaching, and without turning this into a partisan theater. We're going to keep this grounded, plain English, and fair, and we're going to break this down and look at what came out, and then I'll give you my take. And also a disclaimer, family, the audio is not messed up when it comes to this video that's on X on my end. It is the video itself coming out one-sided as I'm looking at the audio itself. So I just want to let you guys know that the audio of this video is just the way that the video is formatted for the audio to come out the way it's coming out. It's not on my end. So let's continue.
Okay. And were you able to identify in that expanded search, did you believe you located that Challenger?
We did, yes.
Okay. Were you able to determine at what time or times Mr. Robinson visited the UVU campus on September 10th?
Yeah, we were able to establish that Mr. Robinson had been on campus approximately 4 times throughout the day, twice before the shooting, the time of the shooting, and then after the shooting later in the evening into the early hours of the 11th.
You said that you initially tracked the shooter forward and backward.
Yes.
with UVU surveillance video.
Correct.
Okay. Did you do the same thing with that vehicle?
We did, yes.
Okay. Tracked it forward and backward?
Yes, using the UVU footage and additional information that was obtained, yes.
And I believe you said that in total, Mr. Robinson visited the UVU campus 4 times that day.
Yes, that's correct.
And let's just be clear, that's all based on UVU surveillance video. Is that fair to say?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Have you reviewed what's been marked State's Exhibit 12.1 for identification?
I have, yes.
Okay. And, well, before we go there, of the video that you have personally watched, does the video include the 10th and the 11th, or just the 10th?
The video I've seen includes the 10th and then a very small portion, I think, about 0:30 of the 11th.
Okay. And I think you said initially you watched about 20 hours of video.
Yes.
Since that time, have you watched additional video?
Yes.
UVU surveillance video?
Yes.
Okay. And who provided the UVU surveillance video to you?
It was part of the collection of videos that was provided by Mr. Olson and his team that we already discussed previously.
Okay. Of all the hours of video that you've watched, do you have an idea of how many hours include Mr. Robinson or his vehicle?
Just with UVU or in
Just with
total?
UVU, I'm sorry.
Just with UVU would probably be about 16 hours.
So there you have it, family. In regards of tracking down Tyler Robinson, who assassinated Charlie Kirk, and my heart goes out to the family. Unfortunate matter. But this is what's going on, and we're going to get into the footage in a minute that the agent was referring to. And now, for the first major thing that came out of the hearing was the surveillance testimony, as you heard. And according to the agent who testified, Tyler Robinson was placed on campus roughly 4 different times that day, twice before the shooting, once during the time period connected to the shooting, and once after, stretching into the early mornings of the next day. That is important because one of the loudest claims online has been that he was never on campus at all. And people have been posting, reposting, making theories, and arguing like that point was already locked in. But inside the courtroom, under oath, the testimony was that the surveillance footage placed him on campus multiple times, and it was not just some vague statement like, "We think he may have been there." The testimony reportedly described him walking around campus, eating at Chick-fil-A, which we're about to get into that clip in a minute of him eating at Chick-fil-A, interacting with staff hours before anything happened, then later coming back in different clothes, and at one point walking with what looked like a limp. Now, let me be clear. That does not mean a jury has found him guilty. That does not mean this case is over. That does not mean every single detail has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But it does mean the online claim that he was never on campus does not line up with what was testified to in court. And that matters because the defense had the chance to challenge that. And that is what cross-examination is for. And the defense can question the witness, question the timeline, question the footage, question how the footage was reviewed, as you guys heard, and try to poke holes into what the state is saying. But based on what came out in the outline, the defense did not really land a major hit on that specific point about whether Robinson was on campus. Again, that does not mean the whole case is finished. It just means that particular theory online took a serious hit when compared to sworn testimony. Then you move to the autopsy, which is the other major thing people have been arguing about. The autopsy finding was that the manner of death was homicide, and the case of death was a gunshot wound to the neck, plain and simple. Now, and this is where a lot of people get mixed up because they hear the word homicide and they think that automatically means murder. But homicide and murder are not always the same thing. Homicide is the medical finding that one person died because of the actions of another person. Murder is the legal charge that says the killing was criminal, intentional, and meets the legal definition under the law. So think about it like this. If a doctor looks at a person and says this person died from a gunshot wound, that is the medical finding. But when a prosecutor says this person was murdered, now we're talking about the legal argument, the charge, the intent, and what the state believes it can prove in court. It is like two people looking at the same car crash. A mechanic might say the car was damaged because the front end hit something. That is the technical explanation. But the police might say the driver was drunk and caused the crash. That is the legal conclusion. Same event, different job, different wording, and different standards. So when an autopsy says homicide, it does not answer every legal question in the case, but it does answer one major medical question. Charlie Kirk died from a gunshot wound to the neck, and the manner of death was ruled homicide. And according to that, the defense was not disputing the autopsy findings. They were not arguing a different cause of death. They were not arguing a different weapon at that point. They were not saying the medical examiner got the basic finding word or the basic finding wrong. And that is important because some online theories depend on making the autopsy sound unclear or mysterious. But the testimony describing it is as straightforward as it is, right? It's as straightforward as it can be. There was also a detail about a holster found near the scene. And this is one of those things where we have to be careful. That detail is still unresolved and it still has not been fully addressed by both sides in open court based on the outline. So the responsible thing is not to build a whole theory around it. The responsible thing is to say that is an open thread worth watching. You do not ignore it, but you also don't run past the evidence and start making a movie in your own head. Another issue people are talking about is the video the judge blocked. Right, there was a compilation video with markers circling Robertson's location on camera, and the judge ruled that video inadmissible in its current form. Now, some people hear that and immediately say the evidence got thrown out. No, no, no. Slow down. That is not automatically what that means. If a judge blocks one edited or assembled version of a video, that does not mean all of the underlying footage is gone. It does not mean the judge rejected every camera angle. It does not mean the whole case collapsed. It can simply mean the way that specific video was put together created a procedural issue. Maybe the compilation added markers. Maybe it combined clips in a way that the court wanted handled differently. Maybe the judge wants the original footage presented without extra edits. And that is a process issue, not automatically a rejection of the evidence itself. A simple example would be a teacher saying, I'm not accepting this edited project because I need the original sources. That does not mean the original sources are fake. It means the edited version is not acceptable in that form. So the judge blocking that compilation video does not mean the surveillance footage itself was thrown out. It means that particular video in that particular form was not allowed. Now let's go into the never before seen surveillance footage of Tyler Robinson and having a casual lunch at Chick-fil-A.
Okay, what are we seeing here, Agent Hall?
That's the vehicle that is believed to belong to Mr. Robinson arriving in the parking garage on campus.
At what time in the morning? What time of the day?
It's approximately 8:30 in the morning on September 10th, 2025.
And what leads you to believe that this particular vehicle belongs to Mr. Robinson?
Information that was provided regards to driver's license and Department of Motor Vehicle records. The vehicle fits the description of a vehicle owned by Mr. Robinson.
Is there anything unique about that vehicle that stands out to you?
The shape of the vehicle is very distinct, but predominantly the wheels were very distinctive on this version of the vehicle.
Now what do we see?
The driver of the vehicle exits the vehicle and then walks on foot to exit the parking garage. It's the individual in the red T-shirt and the shorts and the shoes.
And do you believe you recognize who that person is?
Yes.
Who is that?
I believe that's Tyler Robinson.
All right, and where does he go from there?
He heads out of the parking garage on foot into the campus and actually goes to the quad area of the campus. At that time, he makes contact with some representatives from TPUSA.
By quad area?
Sorry, the amphitheater is what I previously referred it to.
All right. So he goes up on campus, visits the amphitheater area, the courtyard or quad.
Correct.
And then what do we see here now?
He returns on foot back to the same vehicle.
And what time is he returning back to the vehicle?
It's about 9:25 a.m.
And where is this parking structure located on campus?
It's just off of Campus Drive. It's a short walk from the amphitheater.
What do we see now?
That's the vehicle exiting with Mr. Robinson driving the vehicle.
Now what do we see?
This is Mr. Robinson returning to the campus on foot from the neighborhood to the northeast. You can see he's wearing the same clothing as in the previous video. And he's carrying a blue backpack.
Describe the clothing.
It's a maroon colored t-shirt with gray or olive colored shorts, and then Converse shoes.
And what time did he return to campus?
Just after 10 a.m.
And does he leave the parking structure eventually?
He does, yes.
Okay. And during this visit, do you know where he goes after he leaves the parking structure?
Yes, we were able to track his movements on campus. He went to Chick-fil-A in the Sorensen building and purchased some food, sat and ate the food. Then, I'm sorry,
Where did he purchase the food from?
Chick-fil-A in the Sorensen Center.
And where is that in relation to the amphitheater or the courtyard?
It's kind of on the northeast side of the amphitheater. It would be on the upper back edge of the amphitheater, furthest away from where the tent was that Mr. Kirk was in.
And from there, where does he go?
From there, he moves across campus, out across Campus Drive into a wooded area on what would be kind of the northeast side of Campus Drive. Then returns back onto campus. We noticed at this point that he's no longer carrying the backpack that he was originally wearing. He moves through the Gunther building and the computer science building. And then, I'm sorry?
And then goes where?
Then goes across to the railing that gives access to the roof of the Losi building.
And from there?
From there, he comes back down the stairs and walks off campus from that point.
So there you have it, family. Now, this is where a lot of people online start yelling past each other. So let's slow down and explain this legal process and how this legal process works in plain English. A preliminary hearing is not a trial. The standard is not beyond a reasonable doubt. And the standard is probable cause. Probable cause basically means this. Would a reasonable person looking at the evidence presented believe this person could have committed the crime? That is the bar. It does not mean the judge is saying, I know he did it. It does not mean the jury has heard everything. It does not mean the defense has presented its full case. It does not mean the prosecution has proven everything beyond a reasonable doubt. It only means there is enough evidence for the case to keep moving forward. At trial, the standard is way higher. At trial, prosecutors have to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, which means the jury must be firmly convinced based on the evidence that the defendant committed a crime. So a preliminary hearing is more like the court action. Is there enough smoke here to keep looking at the fire? A trial is where the court asks, can you prove exactly who started the fire beyond a reasonable doubt? And that is why people get confused. They watch a preliminary hearing and expect it to feel like the final scene of a movie, but it's not the final scene. It's more like a checkpoint. And the judge is checking whether the case has enough legal foundation to move forward. Now, let's talk about why the defense objects so much. Some people hear the defense objecting and think, why are they objecting to everything? Are they hiding something? No, that is their job. A defense attorney is supposed to challenge the evidence. They're supposed to object. They're supposed to test the state's case. They are supposed to question how the evidence was collected, how it was stored, how it was tested, and how it was edited, and whether it should be allowed in court. And that does not automatically mean the defendant is guilty. It also does not automatically mean the defendant is innocent. It means the legal process is happening. In this hearing, the defense raised questions about DNA testing, chain of custody, how the surveillance video was edited together. And that is a completely valid legal strategy. Chain of custody is basically the paper trail for evidence. You guys seen as he was being very detailed and elaborating on what time he came in and came back and forth, and when he left, the parking lot, and went out of the parking lot, came into the parking lot, when he left the campus, came back to the campus. So when you look at it like that, who had it, when did they get it? Where was it stored? What was it sealed? Was it handled properly? Was it tested properly? Could anything have been mixed up or contaminated, right? When it comes to the weapon and him not having a backpack no more and things like that. That matters because evidence is only as strong as the process behind it. You cannot just walk into a court and say, trust me, this is the evidence. The courts want to know how it got from the scene to the courtroom. Same thing with DNA testing. The defense is allowed to ask who tested it, how was it tested, what method was used, what did the results actually show? And that is not weird. That is how criminal defense works. Same thing with the video. If state presents a compilation video, the defense can ask who made this, what clips were selected, what were any parts left out, were markers added, is this original footage or an edited version? Again, that does not mean the whole case is fake. It means the defense is doing what the defense is supposed to do. And honestly, we should want that process. Even when the accusations are serious, especially when the accusations are serious, the evidence should be tested. If the evidence is strong, testing it should make that clear. If there are problems, the process is supposed to expose those problems before somebody's life get decided by emotion, pressure, or headlines. And from my perspective, based on how things are playing out in the outline, the prosecution looks like it's building a real case piece by piece. They are not just saying, believe us. They are bringing surveillance testimony, autopsy findings, and other details into court. But the judge is the one who decides whether this moves forward to trial. Not the internet, not cable news, not social media, not the loudest person in the comments section. The judge looks at the evidence, listens to the arguments, applies the law, and decides whether probable cause exists. And this is where the bigger conversation comes in, because there is a human side to this too. Erica Kirk is sitting in that courtroom, who is now a widow, unfortunately, due to the loss of her husband, Charlie Kirk. And day after day, facing the man accused of killing her husband, that is not just a headline. That is not just content. That is a woman living through the worst thing that has ever happened to her in real time. Whether people like Charlie Kirk or dislike Charlie Kirk, whether they agree with him or disagree with him, there is still a human being gone. There is still a wife in that courtroom, and there's still a family dealing with grief. And that is why I do not like when people turn serious cases into internet games. One side wants the case to be perfect. Another side wants the case to fall apart. Everybody wants their team to win the argument, but real life is not that simple. This is not a meme. This is not a comment section battle. This is a criminal case involving a death, a grieving family, and a person accused of one of the most serious crimes you can be accused of. That means we should take it seriously, and taking it seriously means not rushing to conclusions before the evidence gets tested in open court. That is the bigger lesson here. Most people react to headlines instead of taking time to understand the process. They see one clip, one post, one headline, one thread, and they are ready to give a final verdict. But the whole point of court is to slow that down. Court is supposed to take what everybody is yelling about and put it under rules. Who said it? Can they prove it? Can the other side challenge it? Is it admissible? Is it reliable? Does it meet the legal standard? And that is what separates a legal process from an internet argument. And this is why Proverbs chapter 18, verse 17 fits this situation perfectly. It says, the first to plead his case seems right until another comes and examines him. That verse is basically saying the first story always sounds convincing until somebody else gets the chance to ask questions. And that is real life. The first person to explain the situation usually sounds right. The first headline you read, yeah, it sounds right. The first video you watch sounds right. And the first person who tells their side of an argument sounds right. But then the other side starts asking questions. Then the evidence gets tested. And somebody says, hold on. What about this detail? What about that timeline? What about this witness? What about that video? What about the original source? And that is what cross-examination does. It slows down the first story and makes it prove itself. Spiritually, that verse is teaching us that judgment should not be instant. It should come after both sides are examined. Because when both people rush past that step, they can end up wrong and confident at the same time. And being wrong is one thing, but being wrong and confident is dangerous. And for viewers, my family who are not in the Bible verse or spiritual, here's some wisdom in plain English. Do not form a hard opinion based on only the first story you hear. That applies to court cases. That applies to relationships. That applies to family drama. And that applies to workplace issues. That applies to social media, and that applies to the news. If your friend tells you what happened in the argument, listen, but do not act like you know everything until you have heard the other side. Same thing with a viral clip online. Watch it, but do not act like you know the whole story from 20 seconds of footage. If a headline makes you emotional, pause before you turn that emotion into a permanent opinion. Sometimes the first story is true. Sometimes it's missing context. Sometimes it's exaggerated, but sometimes it's completely wrong. But you do not know until the claim gets examined. And that is exactly what a preliminary hearing is designed to do. It is not the final verdict. It is a checkpoint, and it is a system saying, before we go any further, let's test whether there is enough here. So the one line takeaway is this. The system is built to slow down and test the claim, not confirm whatever you already saw online first. That is why this hearing matters. Not because it answers every question, not because it ends the case, not because it proves every theory right or wrong. It matters because it puts the claims under oath, under rules, and under cross-examination. And as more testimony comes out, we have to keep that same energy, watch the facts, and watch what is said under oath, and what the defense challenges, and what the judge allows or blocks. And do not confuse online noise with courtroom evidence. So drop your thoughts in the comments. What stood out to you the most from this hearing? Was it the surveillance testimony? Was it the autopsy findings that I basically just elaborated and explained to you in regards to those findings that we're having a conversation about? And was it the block compilation video? Or was it the bigger lesson about waiting before we judge? Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications so you can watch every update as this case moves forward. And like always, family, we're going to spread that peace, love, and positivity. Let the love supersede the hate, family. I'll catch you next one. Love you guys. Appreciate you for rocking with me. Peace.